Good afternoon, everyone. Let's talk rationing. These were the things that were rationed first in World War I, World War II. Don't think it's going to be different this time. Let's start with sugar and move to cheese. Gasoline, driver class, depends on how much you'll get. Shoes and boots, the rubber meets the road. We know speed limits are going to be affected very soon. You're going to have to slow down again. And it was so confusing for those in the 1940s, they had to put out pamphlets on how to use the ration card books. Same thing this time. It'll be a video, and it's going to be on the blockchain. That's going to be confusing for those that don't know how to operate the tech on their phones. That's going to be downright scary. As scary as this is for Halloween, oh, I'm shaking in my rationed boots. And as always with conflict, you're crossing the line. We can see some walls that are unexplained running through Russia. They would have had to use hundreds of thousands of people for decades, plural, but they say this was just built in a couple of years. Strange how nobody wants to study this contour, but this is a line that shall not be crossed, like every other line that brings us into larger conflict. I want to talk about rationing. Millions of troops are on the move. Is your trip really necessary? So they're trying to get you, even back in the 1940s, to stop traveling. Other things are more important. More important than places you need to go. Save the rubber. Check the tires. They're rationed. So let's start with a little bit of rationing, because I do want to go with the first, second, and third things here that will be on the list immediately. We saw today Oman said no more overflights to the territory, and Yemen keeps launching drones. So Red Sea, pincer to the left. Strait of Hormuz, pincer to the right. How long will it be before shipping or oil gets cut off? So we know the first thing that was rationed was gasoline, obviously. War machine needs petrol, needs oil. The energy needs to flow so the military can go. And what we could expect is just going to be a repeat of prior engagements, World War I and II. So gasoline ration cards, and we can look down at the drivers who use their cars for work or essential war efforts, classified differently and receive different stamps. There's different classifications. So let me widen that out for you a little bit so we can read it here. So for most motorists, you're going to get 3 gallons a week, and near the end of World War II, 1944, Americans were reduced down to 2 gallons a week. Now, if you were a shared ride provider with 3 or more passengers, like 4 of you, 5 of you, 6 of you got in a car and went to a job site, a factory, something like this, the holders and the owners of those cars were allotted 8 gallons per week. And then also, if you had essential occupation, physicians, mail carriers, motorcycles had their own allotment. And here's where we get into the unlimited, and this is super important to see the difference between incredible ration at 2 gallons a week and unlimited fuel. Ambulances, police and fire, unlimited. Farm vehicles, so if you have a registered farm, you're going to be able to get unlimited fuel. Use that and share that wisely with others who want to grow food with you, because then you could use it for tillers and these types of things, 4-wheelers that might be used to have farm implements that can drag behind instead of using like a 57 horsepower tractor, save fuel that way. Truckers obviously needed more because they were involved in the effort to move products around. And here was the thing, the controversial sticker for VIPs, i.e. congressmen, congresswomen, politicians, mayors, etc. Very unpopular. Why do they have unlimited when we need to get 2 gallons a week? Canada hopes to boost regulation on natural health products, otherwise known as supplements. This stretches across the border from Canada and the United States, both. And have you heard about nicotinamide mononucleotide, NMN? It's a derivative of vitamin B niacin, a precursor to NAD+, a compound for muscle regeneration, metabolism, and energy production in your body. And as we navigate into this grand solar minimum, food shortages, economic shifts, and our health are paramount. And this represents a tool in the adaptation toolkit, offering benefits like energy enhancement and anti-aging. But the FDA's potential reclassification threatens this access. We're all going to have to navigate the future with the changes. Give Black Forest and MN a try. Remember, prepping out, 2 is 1 and 1 is none. Lucky, buy 2, get 1 completely free, which makes it 3. Click on that link in the description box below. And now on with the video. And then the ultimate upon the ultimate were the bulk coupons, the 100-gallon coupons. If you were able to store fuel in your local community and also could distribute to those with ration books, you were allotted these here. So what they were trying to do is distribute it across of complexity and compliance for the rationing. They'll give you 100 gallons. You need to make sure that 50 cars get the 2 gallons a week if we give you 100. And then also you probably got to keep a little bit on top, but they didn't discuss that in the information I was reading through. And it is going to be contentious, I guarantee you, especially when even the dog catcher will get unlimited fuel, but they expect you to stay on 2 gallons a week. Now, I'm not sure if that would even be allowed at this point, because look how much of our oil is not being produced in the United States any longer. It's going to take a fair bit for it to ramp up production if something were to happen, if Strait of Hormuz were to get cut off, or a worldwide call for oil embargo against Western nations, non-BRICS aligned nations, embargoes. Then what? That's really the question. We're producing about 12 million barrels a day currently in the United States. That's less than half of what we consume every day. So think about just the amount of oil and refinery capacity right now, slash 50%. And that's all the fuel we have across America. Now, they're not going to let you continue to run your jet ski at that point. They're going to ration that further. So, you know, things have already been progressing to move over to this type of energy production system, windmills or whatever it is, solar panels. Do you think in your right mind that they're going to allow you fuel when they want you in your home locked down, traveling less anyway, and that's just part of the plan? Do you think they're really going to give you fuel rations? I don't know. But if I was getting some cans or some bottles of Stabil and getting a few 5-gallon jugs of whatever type of fuel your car uses, that might be a good idea right now, because that was the very first thing rationed as they went into the war effort. Now that's a non-food item. So we'll go delve into the food and then the non-food items here. So let's continue. And you might laugh, but this is the price of petrol, 32 cents, 33 cents, 37 cents when they went into rationing. So those were the prices back in 1942 and 43, 32 cents a gallon, and that was considered high. You know, 37 cents, whoa, you break my bank at 37 cents. But the next thing was tires, rubber, because rubber came from Asia and all the shipping routes were cut, so rubber was extremely difficult to get. So what they ordered the public to do was save your 5 best tires, and you have to turn the rest over to Uncle Sam to recycle. If you were caught with 6, 7, 8, 9 tires, literally a letter of the law said they could arrest you for that. That was considered hoarding at the time. But remember, tires didn't last nearly as long as they do today. You know, tires, you're looking at what, 150,000 miles on a tire? Back then, the best tires were like 2 years. So it's going to be a little bit different than it was then in terms of tires and rubber allotments. Other things to consider, fuel oils. If you heat your home, you might want to fill up a bit extra. Kerosene, not a lot of people doing kerosene lanterns like they did back in the day, but solid fuels, wood, and also coal. But I don't know many people that are heating their homes with coal or using coal any longer. So a lot of things have changed since. But see, even the poster from 1945, the second paragraph down says, all fuel is scarce, plan for winter now. That is a double whammy for this situation we're going into, because as it comes, it's going to come fast and ferocious, and we're far less self-sufficient than we were before. So the fuel oil and kerosene from October 1942 to August 45, everything, tractor fuels, diesel, furnace, lamp oils, all these rationed unless you were a farmer and you had a farm card, and then you could get your But here we go, stove purchase certificate. And when they say stove, they're talking about heating stoves, heating elements for the homes, like what we consider now furnaces. So coal and wood, that was rationed as well, unbelievably. Oil and gas. But heating oil, I guess if you're in the Northeast, you're still familiar with that, but a lot of people have gone away with it. It's been mandated out. California, not a chance. Can't even use your fireplace there. Freest country on the planet. So another thing that'll come down with this, that's happened both times before, is a reduction in speed limit due to oil embargo or lack of fuel. So absolutely, you're going to have to drive slower. Now, in the beginning, imagine how many tickets they're going to issue because you just forgot the first week or two. You know, that's going to be another revenue generator. 55 miles an hour was what they went from 70 in 1973 with the oil embargo. Look at that victory speed limit of 35 miles per hour, but the roads were far, far, far different than they are today. I mean, you could barely drive 45 or 50 without crashing your car back then. You know, the roads are, think about the roads in 1940 compared to what we have almost 100 years later, like expressways and, you know, little country roads, very different now. You can drive much faster on the roads than you could in the 1940s. This will be something to look for. And how prepared are you to carpool or reduce speeds? There's going to be a lot of change in our society with rationing of fuel and behavior changes. But hey, we all got used to behavior changes so fast a couple years ago. I don't see why you couldn't get 2.0 and get behavioral change so fast because of the oil got cut off. That's the main thing. It's not really about they're going to be sending drones over here or whatnot. It's about they cut the oil. That's nearly as devastating. You have to realize that our economy, the lifeblood of that is oil. And you can see why just last week, magically, the United States lifted all sanctions on Venezuela so we can import Venezuelan oil. Although if I was the Venezuelans, I'd be like flipping you the bird saying, I'm not selling you a single thing with what you did to us in the last decade. Look how you destroyed our country, economy, and society, and then we're supposed to be happy to sell you oil again? I don't think so. BRICS nation going to pay us more in gold. Bye-bye. So let's look at the rationed items in the speed and the most rationed and the most quickly rationed. So these are by date, actually. So January 1942 was the very first thing. Tires, because the rubber was needed for Jeeps, etc. And I didn't realize how many tons, like 80 tons of rubber goes into, and even the smallest of ships. And we're talking like landing craft, battleships. Oh man, you're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tons of rubber in a battleship. And they had to go from 0 to 100 in just a couple years. So every ounce of rubber was extremely valuable. Cars, they didn't want to manufacture cars because everything was at the war effort. Unless you were a high up, you couldn't get a car. Now here's a strange one, bicycles. Now think about bicycles today. You need that. If you can't drive a car a mile or two, you can ride a bike. But bicycles were rationed also. And they changed the design of the bicycle to include less metal and less rubber grip handles. They just spray painted the aluminum on that. Gasoline, and then we come to solid fuels like wood and coal. Stoves, because they were made out of iron, so a cast iron potbelly stove, you're not going to be able to get one of those if it follows anything remotely close to World War I and II. Rubber footwear known as galoshes. Shoes, you only got 2 pairs of shoes per year. From 1943 to 45, so those almost 3 years there, you only were able to get 2 pairs of shoes per year. So plan accordingly, buy shoes now if you need them. And the food items, sugar, coffee, processed foods, anything you buy in a supermarket, meats and canned fish, that'll be rationed unless you're growing your own. Cheese and canned milk and fats, that's going to be rationed also. Typewriters, they required steel at the time, so obviously steel was manufactured thing, and they were giving typewriters to anybody that was embedded with the troops only. They were the only ones who could report the news. That's the only way you could get a typewriter is to embed. Will it be the same today? Not sure, but check this out. Shoes and boots. You had to get a coupon to buy rubber footwear. And notice the specifications of it. Only black, or town brown, or army colored. No two-tone shoes. They were prohibited. No boots taller than 10 inches and heels thicker than 2 5/8 inches. All non-essential frills like trimming and whatever something glittery hanging off the side there, nothing. Men's sandals, house slippers, running shoes, golf shoes vanished from the market. You're going to need running shoes to be able to actually do chores. And if you're not going to be wearing boots to do heavy work, and you're going to need to go walk somewhere to go get something or ride your bike, you're not going to be wanting to wear, work boots out there. You're going to want running shoes. So plan accordingly. This is the same exact things that were rationed in World War I. Now, tires, bicycles, and gasoline. Now, so the bicycles, they were rationed because of the metal and the rubber. So you could think the exact same thing, because if our supply chains are shut off, we're not getting anything from Asia. Now, where does our rubber going to come from? Yeah, maybe a sliver from South America, but, they're all bricks aligned these days. So, where do we get our sugar? Well, there's some sugar production in America, but not nearly enough to supply the need. So most sugar's so cheap, it's coming from South America. But I'll remind you once again, almost all South American countries are aligning over on the BRICS nations. So if you think we're going to get preferential treatment just because we're America, think again. So sugar, rice, clothes, and charcoal, because that was the cotton, but now we're a behemoth in cotton production. Before, not so much. But rice and sugar, meat, fats, bacon, and cheese, incredible rationed. From 1938 going through 1940 over in England. And look at your ration card right there, 2 pounds per month. And I'll come back to that in a second. And then we start to see the canned meats. They went away from that because those cans required metal. So what they said, then they started to have to put it in dehydrated, and they changed the packaging into cardboard boxes, and all that metal went to the war effort. So canned tins, as you know them, went out of fashion, and they moved into paper boxes and different packaging techniques specifically for the war effort. Like, there was a huge amount of innovation. Now, they even dehydrated things and dog food, that sort of stuff. Now, fast forward to 1942, England, the war had been there, 1938, in Japan, etc., and then we move over here, and it finally hit the war front in America. So it took a few years. You notice there was a delay. But the same thing, sugar, coffee, meat, canned fish, cheese, canned milk were our rations. And it changed the cooking also. Macaroni and cheese became a #1 meal because you could feed a lot. It didn't require that many ingredients, and you could get that tasty cheese flavor in the elbow macaroni for using very, very little cheese and butter. So butter was rationed. Now think about your consumption or the consumption habits of people across the United States. Now, I'm not really a sugar eater. It makes me too jitter, like gacky is kind of a better word for it. So I really stay away from processed sugars as much as I can. I barely consume them, if at all. I usually try to use honey or stevia or something different. So for me, 2 pounds of sugar per month, it would be enough unless you wanted to distill something where you're going to need more sugar for your, if you're going to run some kind of wash with that, like an apple wash or something. Sugar's going to be very valuable in many different ways. Although I don't consume sugar, I might use some to, my friend has a distillery, and they would need sugar as well. So I'm always over there trying to tinker around and learn from them on what they're doing. I watch them when they distill, how they, use the sugar with what they're doing either to make like schnapps or some kind of brandies at certain times of the year. And then if they're doing sour mash and they're trying to do some barley with the corn on other years or other months, it's a learning process, but it all requires sugar, like vast quantities of sugar. So another thing you could expect would be a disruption in the distilling industry because you need vast quantities of sugar to keep those, to get that fermentation running. So what does that bring us to sugar then? 2 pounds enough for you? I don't know. What about 1 pound of coffee every 5 weeks for you? Is that enough coffee for you? If not, you better plan accordingly. So the 2 pounds, that was standard from England to the United States. But here in America, we don't produce that much sugar, and especially in France and Italy where they didn't have. So let me bring you to just a number here. 1915, the average consumption of sugar was 17.5 pounds. Now, that was an annual production. So if you're doing 2 pounds per month, that was plenty in 1915 and 1940s. Okay, you didn't nearly do as much sugar. But now we got 2011. That's 150 pounds of sugar per person annually. So if you think about it, and you're going 2 pounds of sugar for 12 months, we'll round it up to 25 pounds per year. You realize that's 6 times less sugar. Or actually 5 times less plus the 25 you're using. Are people going to be able to withdraw from sugar? That is a question that really needs to be asked, and the health implications for an instant cold turkey withdrawal from sugar. And right after that, sugar, and then it was coffee, because the shipping lanes were affected. So there was no coffee coming in either. So I'm looking at the amount of coffee that average. This is for Americans, and Europeans are far higher than this. So I'm just using the American cups here. The dark purple's 1 cup, and you see the lighter the purples get, the more cups that it goes up around. And 21% of the population drinks at least 1 cup a day. Another 27% drinks 2 cups, and we get 3 cup, and then we got the 6 cuppers, 4 cuppers, 5 cuppers. Okay, keep that in mind when we're talking about number of cups. So I use 1 cup a day, and that chart, that's only 20% of the population. Everybody else needs more. So the average cup of coffee, to make a 6-ounce cup, you're going to need 10 grams of ground coffee. 28 grams is an ounce. Now, most people that are consuming these cups of coffee are not going for 6-ounce cups. The average cup is a 12-ounce cup. Now, most times you're going to do a pour over. So you're going to have to grind about 1 ounce of coffee beans and pour over. Now, if you're thinking 30 grams, that's already an ounce. There's 16 ounces in a pound. So if you're getting 1 pound of coffee per 5 weeks, you're only going to get 16 12-ounce cups of coffee for the entire month. That's under half of even what's consumed today at 1 cup a day. Now, what the good thing is, the pour over is the most wasteful type of coffee production. The most targeted way is using it to produce espresso, which will cut down to 14 grams, and you use half of an ounce for each espresso shot, a double espresso, that you'll go 14 grams. That way you can double the amount of cups of coffee you get by doing espresso. Again, it's going to be a habit change. How willing are people to change the habits on the espresso? So many things are going to change. Cooking, coffee consumption, alcohol consumption, sugar consumption. There's going to be so many changes. Now, if milk's rationed and sugar's rationed, do you think ice cream's going to be there? Doubtful at best. So how could you work with neighbors, or what farmers do you know? Because the producers of the milk are outside that rationing, because they're the ones that are providing to the wholesale chains or the overseers of milk distribution. So if you're out in the countryside and you know the producers of meat, milk, cheese, butter, yogurt, etc., you're not going to be so much on the ration, because you'll be able to trade them something that they want. Labor, perhaps, a good that they need for their farm. They might need nails, who knows? They might need a saw. They might need some kind of anything. How about a battery-powered chainsaw that runs off of a solar panel kit that you had 2 of that you could trade for continuous meat and milk throughout the entire war? Would that be a good trade for you to trade off with the farmer? I think it would be. You know, so some of these things that you can see into the future that are going to be constricted and restricted, perhaps you could buy something knowing what the farmer might want in the future and buy one of those kits to keep it aside, so you're outside the rationing. But, you know, that's a lifestyle change for everybody. As much as it was standing 6 feet in line, 6 feet apart, waiting single file, it's going to be even more of a shock for people to get on this rationing system. And also an innovation that popped out, again, you see it's in a paper box. Dog food used to be wet, but they understood that you can't put all the cans for dog food. What they did was they dehydrated it, and then you would have to rehydrate it in your home with either water or milk. And it came in a paper box, therefore saving the can and the metal for the war effort. I mean, there's a lot of innovations. Now we have plastics, but plastics are from what? Let me hear it. It's from oil. So the amount of plastics that you're going to see in the supermarkets is going to considerably dry up. And if you think glass is going to be there, either. I mean, that requires an enormous amount of energy. So if they're going to ration electricity, do you think they're going to be producing vast quantities of glass to substitute the plastic? I don't know, but recycling will definitely be a thing at that point. And the reason I keep bringing all this up, it's all about the oil, the oil, the oil. If we don't get the oil, we don't have a society. And look how pinched it's already getting. You're easy to retrain. We've already learned that. They've learned that. You're going to jump and say, how high? Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. How high? I'll stand in line 6 feet apart. No problem. But you're not going to understand the rationing books here in the beginning. So this is what happened. 1942, people were confused because each one was a little bit different. Sometimes you had to tear out the coupon. Sometimes it was a punch hole coupon. Like, you see in the punch holes in the paper. Other times they drew on the thing, and there was a specific stamp that each store was issued that stamped over that thing. They had all these different types of rationing, and then the ceiling prices was the highest price that anybody could charge in the market, like you couldn't price gouge. If anybody went over the ceiling price, then you could report them to the police. There was an enormous amount of difference in how to use each rationing book, each commodity, each thing. Sugar had a different way to buy it than the coffee, and the coffee had a different way to get it than the gasoline. And each one of these came with their own coupon book, and it was confusing as can be for the people who didn't ever do this before. So they had to actually print books out for people to understand how to use all these new coupon books for all the things they needed. Well, today we have videos, which will be the easy thing to do. So you'll have to watch the video on how to download your app. And everything, I assure you, this time will be on the blockchain. The logistics process on blockchain is just going to swap over. Instead of you being the consignee, you will be the rationee, I guess. Just substitute. It's going to follow the exact same to you at the end consumer. And you'll have to learn how to use the ration book on your phone. And again, I'm not sure how consolidated or independent each individual item will be for you, but you're going to have to learn that. So will I. Everybody will. It'll be a new part of society as much as you learn how to stand 6 feet, put on a mask, whatever. It's going to be the same exact thing this time. Same, but different. But as you think about these changes, remember nature is a way to de-stress. And we could all use a bath in a glacial stream, so clean, so clear. Do you know where your water source is? Water wasn't rationed because everybody had wells. This time your taps might shut off. How prepared are you for that? How prepared are you with the food, for the first thing? My Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030 3-month emergency food supply. That link's in the description box below. And also remember to join me over on Patreon, where I'm starting to upload more videos outside the YouTube platform discussing issues like this. I'm just so tired of being throttled on YouTube and algorithmized to almost no reach. So my thoughts, ideas, be doing more exclusives over on Patreon. Take a look over there at what I've been doing so far with the coverage on the Middle East and how this oil embargo and different types of events may affect our world. And I definitely will be talking more about rationing as we move forward, as I get more information and do more research. And please remember to sign up for our newsletter. Ransom Godwin and myself, Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. We send you the show notes. Things we talked about, just like this bevy of rationing, will be in our next show notes. I do appreciate watching. Hope you got something out of the video. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.